All right, 5:30, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Tom, could you like the roll call?
Mayor King.
Present?
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Present.
Councilmember Fisher.
Present.
Pashusta.
Present.
Kelly.
Present.
Postma.
Present.
Baker.
Right here.
Baskin.
Present.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 2 is a motion approving the minutes from our February 6th, 2023 meeting, need a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion continues. I failed to adopt the agenda. Item number 1, we'll do a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If there's no item number 3, recognitions and awards. Item number 4 is a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 are under public hearings. Item number 5 is a public hearing on street improvements on 5th Ave Northwest, 20th Street to 22nd Street Northwest, 6th Avenue Northwest from 22nd Street Northwest to the dead end, and 20th Street Northwest from 4th Avenue Northwest to the dead end. Project number 18105. Mitch?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In the past years, we've had public informational meetings the week before this council meeting, this public hearing, and I'll go through a presentation with the people on these projects and kind of show a PowerPoint of what we're planning on doing. This year we did a little different. We held an open house, kind of a 2-hour window, hoping to make that a better time for people to make work with their schedules. And just for information, we sent out 213 notices, and we had about 10 people show up, or 10 properties represented. So pretty low turnout on that, so maybe some new faces in the crowd tonight that are here to get this information for the first time. So we'll start with this project, 5th Avenue, 6th Avenue, and 20th Street Northwest. The map that you can see on your screens, this was on a big poster board at these open houses for each project, and kind of color-coded some of the work that we're going to be doing so people could see what's taking place in the project. So generally, we're going to be removing the asphalt pavement on this street and removing sections of deteriorated curb. And then on 5th Avenue and 20th Street, we'll be replacing sanitary sewer for most of those streets. 20th Street will be from 4th Avenue up to house number 604. We'll be running new sanitary sewer down the center of the street. And then on 5th Avenue, we'll be running sanitary sewer from 20th Street to about 2204. And then Austin Utilities has work on the project. This spring, they'll be working on gas main replacement. And then after our sanitary sewer work is done, they'll jump in behind us and do water main construction. And once that's all complete, we'll start kind of the process of putting the road back together. We'll excavate the roadway, put in a rock base, drain tile with sump pump connections to each house, and then replace the patches of curb that we took out with utility construction, and then sidewalk replacement. So the blue shaded areas are deficient sidewalks where things do not meet ADA requirements. And then the longer stretches, like the west side of 20th Street, we plan to construct new sidewalk where there is none currently, just to make better connections to the neighborhoods. You can see that the existing sidewalk stops right here, so we're going to make a connection up to 5th Avenue. And then go north, the cul-de-sacs between 6th Avenue and 20th Street. We plan to make a connection from 6th Avenue. We have a right-of-way between 2100 and 603. We plan to put a sidewalk through here and then make a connection over to 19th Street to connect those neighborhoods. Lastly, once that's all complete, then we come in and pave the road and put things back there, put the finishing touches in the boulevard, sodding, things like that. Phasing, we plan to phase this project into 2 phases. Phase 1 being 20th Street, We plan to get a majority of the work done on 20th Street, and then once that's in a drivable condition, either rock or asphalt, then we jump over to Fifth Avenue and Sixth Avenue. This is we've made some determinations on, this would be in phase 2 now. So Fifth and Sixth Avenue would both be in phase 2. And that's kind of the schedule there. Sorry. Phase 1, we plan to start in early July, kind of wrap up in late September. And then phase 2, start in about mid-August and finish up in the end of construction season in late October. So there'll be a little overlap, but we plan to have vehicle access to the properties on the cul-de-sac here on phase 1 before we do anything too drastic on phase 2. And then the project costs, overall estimated $900,000 project with $650,000 in street improvements, very little storm sewer improvements. Everything's in pretty good condition there, so we're not gonna do much. And then about $240,000 in sanitary sewer improvements. And then projects funded through assessments, through our assessment policy to the adjacent property owners and our utility fees. Any questions from you or anyone?
Mitch, just a comment. I think it's a nice touch that you offered that open house to the residents. I know this is something that impacts those folks' lives, whether they can't get near their house with groceries or whatever it might be. So it's nice to get those conversations addressed, and I appreciate you doing that. So.
And although we had low turnout, I have received, a dozen phone calls from properties as well. So people reach out if they have questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mitch?
Mayor, if I could add something.
Sure.
Mitch, would you mind touching on assessment options? Then that'll kind of cover all the items. Please.
So with the assessments, there's 3 options for payment that we provide or allow. Option 1 is to pay the amount in full by the end of October. Option 2 is to pay at least 50% of the assessment, and then the remainder is applied to your property taxes over a 15-year period with a 5% interest rate. And then the final option would be to pay none of that total amount, and then the entire balance would go on your property taxes over 15 years with that same 5% interest rate. And we do have a financial assistance policy that if the individual lives on the property and financially qualifies, they could defer their assessment until it's sold at some point in the future.
Excellent, thank you. If no further questions, looking for a resolution ordering the improvement, approving plans and specifications, and ordering advertisement for
Or if
bids.
there's anyone in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, public hearing. Anybody here wishing to speak on that matter for those neighborhoods, Northwest? No, okay, looking for resolution for 5A.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tommy?
Councilmember Fisher,
Aye.
Pashusta,
Aye.
Ellie,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker. Aye. Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 6, resolution for a public hearing on street improvements on First Street Northwest from Oakland Avenue West to First Drive Northwest, project number 23101. Mitch?
So our next project is First Street Northwest, downtown area. This is probably our most complicated project of the year. When you look at the map, there's only a couple green lines, a couple blue lines, and maybe some pink lines. Doesn't look like much, but what's not being shown is all of the telecommunications lines and other electrical things like that we have to work around, so it makes it very challenging. So in general, the scope of this project will be removing and replacing the concrete pavement. Austin Utilities has water main replacement on the entire project, and we will be working on replacing the storm sewer as well as the sanitary sewer through the intersections. We don't have any sanitary sewer that runs down the length of the street. It's just these crossings. We're just making those new so that it's in good condition, so we don't have to tear up the brand new street in 5 years if something bad happens there. Near the south end between First Avenue and Oakland, we do plan to extend a sanitary line to provide better connection for this property that's mid-block. Our policy is to have a sanitary sewer main in front of every property in town. So we'll extend that with this project. Austin Utilities also has electrical vaults, which aren't shown on here. There's a bunch of structures that house all their electrical work. They'll be upgrading those, making improvements to those. Also, at 4th Street, the City Council earlier this year decided to remove the signal lights and turn this intersection at 4th Avenue into a four-way stop. So in order to make those stop signs more visible, we plan to construct some bump outs similar to right in front of the office, or City Hall here, and by the high school, to get those stop signs out in the traffic more so they're more visible, while still maintaining turning radiuses for vehicles, things like that. Also, we will be installing new street lighting on this project. The current street lights are in very poor condition, and then upgrading those to LED with the project. And then sidewalks, again, the blue shaded. Currently, there's sidewalk in all these locations, but we will be replacing all of the sidewalk on this project, as well as pedestrian ramps for access to the street on each corner. And then we'll talk about phasing a little bit. Since this is a very busy part of town, we want to minimize this disruption to the downtown businesses and people going to work, things like that. So we plan to do this in 3 phases. Phase 1 would be starting at First Drive and then working our way south. Our intention is to keep either First Drive or 4th Avenue open to traffic at all times during the project. So we'll start with First Drive and get that all put back together with the new road surface before we move on to Phase 2, which would then tear into 4th Avenue intersection. And then we would have some overlap between Phase 2 and Phase 3, just due to the amount of work there. We can't just jump from one phase, wait for that to be completed before we start the 3rd phase. So there will be some overlap there of about a month. And the intention is to start Phase 1 in early May and wrap that up in late June. And then Phase 2 would start in late May and wrap up before school starts. And then the 3rd phase would be early August starting date and wrap up at the end of construction season. And then the overall project cost for this project is estimated at $1.825 million, with just under $1.4 million in street improvements, about $400,000 in storm sewer improvements, and $30,000 in sanitary sewer. And again, we would be assessing this project, just like the previous one, to the adjoining property owners for both street and sidewalk.
Mitch, I think it's important to know for the residents too, when's the last time that street has been done? How long has that been in existence?
First Street was done in the 70s. I don't remember which year specifically, but
We try to get 50 years out of a street
yes.
project, and that's right on par. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Mitch on 6, Resolution 6? Anybody here from the public wishing to speak on this matter for this project? If not, looking for a resolution for 6A, ordering improvements, approving plans and specifications, ordering advertisement for bids.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher,
Aye.
Pashusta,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Baskin,
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 7 is public hearing on street improvements on 2nd Street Southwest, 10th Ave to 12th Ave Southwest, and 10th Avenue Southwest from 2nd Drive to 4th Street Southwest, and 11th Avenue Southwest from 2nd Drive to 4th Street Southwest. Project number 2302. Mitch?
Again, 2nd Street, 10th Avenue, and 11th Avenue will be a little more similar to the Northwest project that we talked about earlier. We'll be removing the asphalt pavement, the existing curb and gutter, and all of the existing curb and gutter on this project, as well as all of the sidewalk. As we talked about at our last work session, Stephen presented kind of our assessment policy for sidewalk, and this is the project where more than 50% of the existing sidewalk was in poor condition. So that kind of triggers our full replacement on this project. So we plan to replace all of the sidewalk on this project, as well as add sidewalk on the west side of Second Street, make a connection to our bike trail, which is hard to see on this map, but along the river on Second Drive, that's actually called. Make a connection to our trail up to the sidewalk here. And then there are these steps that used to go down the hill, or they currently go down the hill, and I think they went to the old swinging bridge that used to be there. We intend to remove those steps. They're in poor condition. They're not really maintained, kind of a hazard. So we would look to remove the steps and then construct a sidewalk connection down the hill. The city owns this property, so we'd be able to make a connection through there. Again, Austin Utilities has water main work on all three of these streets. And the city, we'll be doing some storm sewer work in the 2nd Street and 11th Avenue intersection, as well as a little bit down here at the end of 11th Avenue. And then for sanitary sewer, we just have a few spot repairs to repair some broken pipes. And then again, like I said, pedestrian ramps to all the new sidewalk replacement. This project we will be phasing in 2 phases. Phase 1 being 10th Avenue and the north block of 2nd Street. And then phase 2 would be 11th Avenue and the south block of 2nd Street. Phase 1 we plan to start in early May and wrap up at the end of July, and then followed right behind with starting phase 2 in August and wrapping up at the end of October. Project cost is estimated at $1,115,000, $950,000 of street improvements, $100,000 of storm sewer, and $65,000 of sanitary sewer. And again, this project would be assessed based on our policy to the adjoining property owners.
Excellent. Any questions, council?
Mitch, can you talk through kind of the sidewalk thinking a little bit? I know we talked about it in our last session, but I think kind of one is kind of the rationale behind why we would replace an entire sidewalk, and 2 is what options residents have if they think that maybe there's some, their sidewalks are not in as bad a condition or were replaced maybe more recently.
Sure. So every year prior to a project, we send our staff out to go survey these sidewalks and determine which ones meet ADA, or Americans with Disability Act standards. And those standards are pretty tight requirements. Like a tripping hazard on the sidewalk is a 1/4 inch. That's what's considered non-compliant with ADA. Any gaps between sidewalk panels over a 1/4 inch. Cross slope, so if they're slanted too far in one direction. Drainage issues that cause icing in the winter. Cracked panels, things like that. That's what we're looking for that makes things deficient. And then we take all that information and put it on a map, and you can maybe, I don't have a map available to show that, but we show all these panels where they're being replaced. And in this project, over 50% of the total sidewalk was in poor condition. And there's some sidewalk stamps out there that back in the day, they used to stamp the concrete with the year that it was poured. There's some sidewalk out here that says 1939. So since there's so much of it out there, our reasoning is that if we don't do it now, we're not coming back for 50 years like the mayor said. It's not going to last 50 years, so we want to just take care of it now, and the street will look a lot nicer that way. There are some instances where, and we have this in our policy, where based on our engineering judgment, if there's some sidewalk that was obviously more recently replaced than the general sidewalk on the street and meets ADA requirements, we could remove that from someone's assessment, but those people would need to contact me, and I would go evaluate that this spring after the frost is out of the ground.
Thank you.
Anybody here from the public wishing to speak on this matter? No? Well, okay. Step forward, and if you could, give us your name and address. And happy to hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Linnell Sunday. I live at 1004 Second Drive. Just question, so it specifically in regard to the 10th Avenue where there is no curb or sidewalk on the one side, is that the plan to continue? There's no widening there or no issue with, I mean, I have a fence and tree line and other things on that side.
Let me go to the map here. So are you on the south side of the road here? What was your house number again?
1004 Second Drive, but I'm on, to go up,
Oh,
on the side of the three homes. I'm
okay,
right there.
right here, okay.
Yes.
So this is a very narrow right-of-way. It's not our standard roadway right-of-way. Typically, that's 66 feet. I don't know the exact dimension of this one, but it's significantly narrower than that. So our street is currently very narrow. Since we're so constrained, we do not have room to widen this street at all. We do plan to put curb and gutter on both sides of the road. And we can maybe widen it just a little bit, a foot or less, but we just don't have the room to widen that street.
No, I'm questioning if there's any issue with my fence or tree line or anything that's gonna be removed.
That is something we'd like to talk to you about. There is a fence line right on the right-of-way line with a bunch of trees on it. At a minimum, we plan to, depending on cooperation we can get from homeowners, we plan to clear cut, the brush that's kind of overhanging through that fence and any tree branches that are extending into the roadway, because that, right now it's not so bad with the leaves and foliage off the trees and brush, but in the summer it kind of always grows out and causes that narrow road to become even narrower. So we are doing some more looking at that, and I'd like to talk to you further about your fence as well, if I could.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Joel, do you have something?
Joel Sheik, and I'm at the 300 address. And my question was, I couldn't tell from your schematic, and I just heard you say you were going to put curb along the north side of 10th Avenue. And I guess my question was, why? Because it's been we've been there 30 years and it's never had a curb. And the house we live in was built in 39, so I know that hasn't had a curb for forever. I guess that was one question. But I'm looking at the expense of it, and it's, kind of pricey. And as far as the fence line and the trees, just brought up another question. I've been told by city before, if a tree gets growing over to, rubs against the trucks or something, and I've been told to trim that. So I've trimmed it, but it sounds, is that a city, is the city supposed to trim it? Or is the person that lives there supposed to trim it?
Dave might be able to speak better on that.
Technically the city, but
Because I have in the past.
you can do it yourself.
But what I thought I heard you say is that, you guys were gonna be doing some thinning and trimming and stuff like that. But I guess my initial question was about the curb and why, at this point.
So on our city streets, we try to have curb and gutter on all streets if possible. You can't really tell here, it's because it's 2D, but 10th Avenue really falls off pretty steeply down to Second Drive, not Main Street. And when water gets flowing there, when you don't have a curb and gutter, it can really wash out the edge of the roadway. And so if you go out there today, the pavement's in extremely poor condition in this area, and that's where this water that flows down towards the river picks up its speed and really causes damage to the roadway. So we want to contain that water in the curb and gutter, and it just makes our streets last longer. The other thing it'll help is there's some erosion coming. There's from the street up to the 300 property. It's a pretty steep embankment, and that curb and gutter will help hold that soil in, and we'll stabilize that with some vegetation, and it'll keep that dirt from eroding into the roadway as well. So that's kind of the reasoning behind putting the curb and gutter there.
All right. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak in this matter? Council, any further questions on this project?
Mitch, only question on the curb and gutter, I think that piece makes sense. Is that I mean, I don't think we've probably redone this for 50, 60 years. So is our thinking around curb and gutter and like how it positively benefits the street different than maybe 50 years ago, the last time we would have redone the street? Kind of to Joel's question around why it hasn't been there for the last 80, 90 years.
Yeah, if it's not put in with a project, it's really hard to go back and just add curb to a street with nothing else happening. So the fact that it was built without curb, I can't speak to why it was not put in. You see a few scattered properties throughout town that, for whatever reason, they don't have curb and gutter. Like the Northwest project, for example, that has like a 30-foot stretch where there's no curb. Why, I can't really speak to that, but anytime we're doing a project, we like to get it in just so it helps keep our roads lasting longer because it contains that asphalt pavement. That asphalt's flexible, so when you get cars driving along the edge of it, if you don't have that curb and gutter there, it kind of, over time, will kind of deteriorate that edge. So the concrete curb contains it, and it helps keep drainage where we want it to be.
Thank you.
Another question?
Sure.
How will that affect my driveway? Because I exit and enter on 10th Avenue. I mean, the road is already up higher than my driveway, and, there's a large collection of water there right now. But how is that gonna affect my driveway, and what am I gonna have to do? Am I gonna have to do anything? Am I gonna have to get the grade, or am I gonna have to change anything, or are you gonna change it? Or?
So that'll all be taken care of as part of the project. So in general, when we add curb to places where there wasn't curb before, that roadway gets a little lower than it was previously. So then we'll have to reconstruct your driveway up to the property line, and we'll make that a nice transition to what you currently have there. And
But that could affect me on that point, though, right? I may have to do something with my current driveway.
no, we'll match in. We're not going to go into your property. We'll match in at your property line, make sure things drain properly, generally towards the street.
And what is the plan for homeowners to access their homes during it?
Good question.
Helicopter.
Generally, we have to close these streets to do the work. You'll see Austin Utilities and our crews will have giant holes in the middle of the street, so you're not going to be able to get a vehicle down the roadway. So most of the time, we have to tell people to park on an adjacent street that's open. And it's, you look at our phasing here. For some of these people, in this area, that's a little challenging because they're kind of in the middle of a phase of a project, and so they're going to have to walk a little further. We do our best to accommodate people with disabilities. I've spoken to several people in these projects this year already that are in a wheelchair or they're elderly. And we do as much as we can to make life easier for them, but we do understand it's a challenge and a major inconvenience to people on these projects.
Speaking from experience, you might want to get a collapsible pull-behind grocery cart with big wheels. I'm not kidding. I mean, you just...
It will be walkable, I guess is the question. And we will leave our vehicles outside for months then.
That was my experience.
Yeah, definitely inconvenience, there's no doubt. Anybody got any questions on this project number 7, project number 23102, item number 7? If not, looking for a resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher,
Aye.
Bashusta,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Baskin,
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 8 is a resolution for a public hearing on street improvements on 7th Avenue Northeast from 19th Drive to 21st Street Northeast and 19th Drive Northeast from 6th Avenue to 7th Avenue Northeast, project number 23103. Mitch?
So this project's Very similar to the project we just discussed in the southwest. We'll be removing all the asphalt pavement, the curb and gutter. Austin Utilities has water main replacement throughout the project. Sanitary sewer work for the city. We will be replacing all of the sanitary sewer manholes, as well as making some spot repairs throughout the project. Very little storm sewer on this project, just a little bit down by Highway 218, and some reconfiguring down here at the 19th Drive and 7th Avenue intersection. And as well on 7th Avenue and 19th Drive, for our sanitary sewer, you can see here, we have this really goofy manhole here. We will be kind of reconfiguring the flow and taking a better, more direct route to get that out of there. So that'll be an improvement. Again, replacing deficient sidewalk and making some connections where there are none currently. Again, the scattered blue is the deficient sidewalk, and then these longer stretches, this is where we intend to extend sidewalk to make connections throughout the neighborhood. And then out near Highway 218, there is no sidewalk currently, so we plan to add that in to make connections. Once we're done with all that work, we'll be restoring the boulevards just like every other project. And we can look at the phasing. This one, we're looking at a 3-phase project. Phase 1 starting in early May and completing in late July. This kind of a curve here, finishing that up. And then in mid-June, we would move on to Phase 2 with kind of half of 7th Avenue. And the plan is once Austin Utilities is nearly complete with their work, that's when we'd start Phase 3 in mid-July and let them continue on. And then we'd work on putting Phase 2 back while they work on Phase 3, and then both projects would finish up in early October. The total cost for this project is $1,175,000, with $900,000 out of street funds, $170,000 out of stormwater, and $105,000 out of sanitary sewer. And once again, this project would be assessed based on our policies, just like the previous ones, to the adjacent property owners.
Council, any questions on item number 8? Public, any public here speaking on the matter? Hearing none. Looking for a resolution for item number 8, resolution ordering improvement, approving plans and specifications, and ordering advertisements for bids.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thanks, Tom. Item number 9 is resolution, a public hearing on street improvements on 8th Street Northeast from 16th Avenue to 18th Avenue Northeast, and lift station construction on 16th Avenue and 8th Street Northeast, project number 23104 and 23201. Mitch?
So this project is another big project that we had planned to improve our sanitary sewer and lift stations in this area. This one's a little different than some of the other projects where it's being driven more by the underground than the street surface. And what we plan to do here is we have 3 lift stations, one up here, one over here, and one down here that we plan to combine into one right north of I-90 in this kind of green space. And in order to kind of minimize our maintenance costs of maintaining 3 lift stations, now we'll just be maintaining 1. But in order to do that, we need to get gravity sanitary sewer from up near International Paper down to this location. So that's something that we'd be working on. And then we would also have to get force main, which is a pumped sewage, down to 8th Street and the 10th Avenue intersection down here. So this project is a little behind the others in terms of the design. This fall we did soil borings to determine or to understand what kind of materials we'd be working with underground. And in this area where we intend to put the lift station, we ran into shallow bedrock. And so we've been working on trying to figure out what we can do to work in that material. So that delay has kind of caused us to take a step back on our project here. So what we're looking to do is continue working on our design and figuring out the feasibility of constructing this lift station, and move towards constructing the lift station this fall and pushing our street portion of the work to 2024. So we would, I think it's one of the next items is setting the public hearings for the assessments. So we have sent assessment letters to the property owners adjacent to 8th Street. We would look at not holding those public hearings and removing those assessments from those properties. And then in 2024, when we move on to the street portion of this work, we would redo the assessments in 2024. So we hope to, in the near future, figure out what can be done to get this lift station constructed, because we really want to get this lift station put in this location, because it'll really help with our sewer crews and their maintenance work that they need to do on these lift stations. So we're going to continue to work and figure out the plans for this project, but we may have to phase it so that phase 1A, I would call it, is constructing the lift station and some of this piping underneath the interstate. And then phase 2 next year would be the extension of the sewer and reconstruction of the roadway.
Thank you, Mitch. Questions?
Yeah, Mitch, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking for approval on then.
Approving so tonight's the hearing on improvements. So approving the improvements and letting us continue to develop the plans and get that ready for potential project bid letting later this year. But then the street portion of that work, we would have to reassess in 2024 to the adjacent property owners.
Do you have a dollar value on what you think you're going to spend this year?
Oh, sorry, I skipped that part. So the total project cost is estimated at $2.4 million, with half of that, $1.2 million, coming from sewer improvements, and the other half storm and street improvements. So the sanitary for this year would be less than that full 1.2 million, because we wouldn't be doing the portion from 16th Avenue all the way up to International Paper, but that would be done in 2024 with the 8th Street construction.
Any other questions, council? Is anybody here from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Hearing none, looking for a resolution for 9A.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 10 is a resolution for a public hearing on street improvements on Hormel Drive from 4th Street to 8th Street Northeast, project number 23105. Mitch?
So these last two projects are more of the simple projects. So Hormel Drive from 4th Street to 8th Street Northeast, we will be doing a mill and overlay where we will mill the top 3 inches of asphalt on the street. And then right after that, we'll come back and pave 4 new inches on top of it. The street's in okay condition, but asphalt takes about, it's kind of about a 25-year lifespan before it needs kind of a rejuvenation. And this was last mill and overlaid in, I believe it was 2001. So doing this now will prevent a complete reconstruction from being necessary for another, 30 years or so. Which would cause major disruption to Hormel and, others. So this is kind of a
Congratulations on being
extension of the service life of this roadway. So we plan to do this project in June or July, and we've been working with Hormel on discussing how to complete the project with minimal impact to them and their operations. And so like I said, June or July, it's going to take us about 2 weeks to do the work. We're in discussions with a contractor that we frequently work with on how they can stage the work to keep traffic open and provide access to Hormel. So that's what we're working on there. Estimated project cost is $275,000, paid for through assessments to property owners, tax levy, and state aid.
Excellent. Thanks, Mitch. Council, any questions? Anybody here from public? Item number 10. Hearing none, looking for resolution for item number 10A.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher,
Aye.
Bashusta,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye. Make sure it's done fast.
Baskin,
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Next, Tom, item number 11 is public hearing on street improvements on 3rd Avenue Southwest from 20th Street to 21st Street Southwest and 21st Street Southwest to from 22nd Street to 6th Avenue Southwest and 22nd Street from Oakland Avenue to 3rd Avenue Southwest, project number 23106. Mitch?
So this is another mill and overlay project, this time in a residential area. We would mill off the top 1.5 inch of the existing asphalt pavement, and then right afterwards come back and pave a new 1.5 inch of pavement. Again, this one we plan to do in June or July. Work will take approximately 1 week, depending on weather, things like that. Generally, residents will be able to access their houses throughout the project, except those times where they're physically paving the road or physically milling the road in front of their driveway. So generally, low impact to these property owners. Estimated project cost, $230,000, paid for, again, with assessments and local tax levy.
Great, thanks. Council, questions?
Mitch, since you mentioned that it's generally accessible up until the doing the actual work, do homeowners get a notification like today's the day, don't leave your car in the garage?
So on all these projects that we've talked about, I try and give all the property owners approximately a week notice. And sometimes that changes because contractors will call me like at the last minute saying they're gonna be there tomorrow or whatever. But try and give a week's notice on everything with a letter handed out to their door. We're not mailing something that gets lost in the mail. We're physically just putting it in their door. I also, on all these projects, I post weekly updates to our construction page, so people can look there and see what's going on this week. And then occasional updates on Facebook. And then on something like this project, the mill and overlay, where I might say they're gonna be here next week, but their work's probably only gonna take them 3 days. We have the contractor put up no parking signs the day before they're gonna do their work, saying no parking from such a time to such time, so that people know they need to either get out of the way or stay in their driveway or stay home, whatever they do to be out of the way.
Have you guys ever considered using a text service for that? Especially for the things where it's like remember, tomorrow's the day, you're not gonna have access.
I would absolutely love to do that. I'm sure there's a cost for that sort of subscription service, or I've looked into it a little bit. I don't have any dollar figures in front of me, but there would be a cost to that. But that's something I would certainly love to do.
I'll send you what we use at Austin Area Arts. It's pretty low cost.
Okay.
Mitch, just a piece of appreciative feedback. I know you always get the questions from people going, why the hell is this happening? I've actually heard from a couple people on this project who are excited about it.
Okay.
So they are very much looking forward to their road being smooth and pothole-free.
One of the few.
There are some out there.
Thanks, Mitch. Anybody have any questions on, anybody here from the public on item number 11? No? Council, any further questions on item number 11?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher,
Aye.
Bashusta,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Baskin,
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Mitch. Item number 12 is a resolution under petitions and requests setting a public hearing for March 20th, 2023 for street improvement project assessments. Your resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Hilly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 13 is a motion dedicating the Michael Ruzek Tree Trek. Dave, any comments on this? We're naming the tree trek down by East Side Lake after Mike Ruzek. Very impactful to the Spruce Up Austin. Council, need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14 is a motion adopting a pavement assessment policy and a sidewalk assessment policy. Stephen?
At the last work session, we talked about two policies based on our paving assessments and our sidewalk assessments. Those policies were used to develop the hearings that you just had, so we would recommend approval of both, official approval of both of those policies.
Council, questions? If not, looking for a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 15 is a motion adopting Juneteenth as a 2023 holiday. The legislature approved that as a new holiday. The feds did it some years ago. I think it's worth noting that the holiday generally wouldn't start till the 2024 year, but I believe Austin, as a welcoming community, has embraced that we're going to do it this year and give it to those folks in our employee ranks this year in the 2023. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 16 is a resolution accepting donations in the city of Austin, and they are as follows: $300 gift from the Disc Golf Club for disc golf improvements, $53,000 from the Friends of the Nature Center for a trail vehicle at the Nature Center. The flower donations still come in, $50 Stephen Shelley King, $50 Bonnie Mogan, $50 Jane McFarland, and $250 from Tom and Sharon Marshall for the flower project. Need a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 17 is a motion adopting revisions to the travel policy. Trish?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight are a couple of suggestions for updating the travel policy, two sections. One is for the meal reimbursement, and the other is for overnight travel for a distance, miles difference. The meal reimbursement hasn't been updated since 2012 when we first implemented the amounts for the reimbursement. And in looking at some other cities and other government entities, our amounts were low. Some other city departments had asked that we review our travel policy, and in doing so, we discovered that we were low. So the amounts listed below are the recommended amounts: breakfast at 13, lunch at 18, dinner at 30. So that's the one section to update, and then the other one would be for the distance. If you had an event starting the morning, the next morning, if a conference or whatever it might be, if it started before 9 a.m., if you were traveling, currently it's a distance of 125 miles or more, you would have an overnight stay. We're suggesting that it be reduced to 75 miles, which would be consistent with our other night conference requirement. That way, somebody doesn't have to leave at 5:30 in the morning to get to an 8 o'clock start conference, or whatever it might be. So those are the two suggested revisions to the policy.
All right. Council, any questions on item number 17?
Trish, do we have any understanding of kind of what the financial impact of this is?
Well, when looking back in just 2022, for our meals, it was about $1,300 that we had for meal reimbursement. I don't know how much it would be for the hotel. So I don't think it's a huge amount. I just think that for the ones that are traveling and do have the meals, we do have a low amount. So when I did look, for the ones I did spot check, it looked like lunch and dinner were primarily the meals that were being reimbursed. So I don't have an exact number for you, but I don't think it would be a large expense.
Not tremendously material.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Any other questions, council? If not, looking for a motion for number 17.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 18 is a motion approving a $1,000 funding request from R. Austin, R. America. Craig?
Thank you, Mayor and members. Pretty exciting opportunity here. Folks know our Austin, Our America project that Bill Toffick did, been very successful in the community. They've worked and moved that forward and going to have a display at the State Capitol Gallery on March 13th through June 30th of this year. And as a result of the number of photos that they had, they wanted to add more and populate the presentation there at the State Capitol to highlight Austin. We'd be the first project that they're doing to highlight our immigrants in our state. Bonnie Reitz and Danny Heine, I see, is here as well. Bonnie, if you want to come up and add some comment, that'd be helpful. Otherwise, we want to see if council's agreeable to participating in the cost of framing up some more of the beautiful photos. The cost of that's about $10,000. The ask is $1,000 for the city to participate towards that goal. And they can answer any other further questions.
Okay. Great project. It was quite an honor. Bonnie, do you have any further comments? Or Danny?
Just a couple.
Might as well both come, your team.
All right.
Team it up.
And we'll be quick, we know the weather is not so good out there.
Bonnie, did you miss the street assessments? Does that just take you back to the good old days?
I asked her the same question. Mayor, Steve, Council, it's an honor to be here tonight, and we're so proud of the project, Our Austin, Our America. This is the book that was published, and then thank you here at City Hall because you had the pictures for several months in the hallway upstairs so people could see them. And also, there's a wonderful introduction that Jason did at the beginning of the book. There's also a really fun picture of your honorary council members in there, and then other members of the citizens here in Austin. And as Craig was saying, we're very excited and proud of the fact that Bill Toffick's portraits will be the first show in the gallery at the Capitol since COVID hit. So we're excited. And we want to invite all of you. There's going to be an opening for the exhibit on March 13th from 4 to 6. And Bill wants Austin to be a role model for other communities. And he wants the book to be out there and the pictures to be out there. And we're going to be talking to the League of Minnesota Cities and the Coalition of Minnesota Cities, inviting them to the opening and taking a book to them and sharing. And we'd like the story to be told around Minnesota of our wonderful community. And Danny's going to talk about the financial part of this.
Yes. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you tonight, council members and mayor. We are requesting $1,000 towards the Capitol exhibit, which will allow us to purchase frames, 10 more frames. Actually, it's 12 because 2 of the frames have become damaged. So purchasing some additional frames, reprinting the book, so that we'll have them available to sell through the Minnesota Historical Society and at Sweet Reads. We've basically run out of books, just a very few left from the original printing. Riverland Community College is the fiscal agent for the project, and book sales will go to help fund scholarships at Riverland. And so we really thank you for considering the request. We think it aligns really well with the Austin Human Rights Commission's strategic plan. We think it aligns really well with Austin's efforts to become a welcoming, intentionally welcoming community through the Welcome America initiative. And also it aligns well with the Austin Arts Commission. So thank you for
Very
considering.
good. Right on.
Questions at all?
Questions, council?
I just want to comment that the last week, the Culture and Arts Commission did vote to support the project. Our budget as a commission is significantly smaller than the city budget. So that's officially an endorsement of the project from that commission.
Thank you. Craig?
And just to add to that, the Human Rights Commission will be discussing it as well. So they weren't able to meet before the council meeting, but I know that's on their agenda as well.
And you're getting out there to the private citizens too to donate, right? You're accepting donations from private citizens.
Yes, we've gotten, as each email comes with another donation, it's like, yes, it's, it's so heartwarming. And there's, a couple of the larger corporations in town have given, and then several individuals. And we're very grateful for each of that, because putting it together should give us the amount that we need to finish up the project.
Right. No, I fully endorse the $1,000. I'd love to give more, but $1,000 is the least I think we should do. You might not know this, but a delegation coming from Portugal is coming to,
Yes.
picking about 3, 4, 5 cities to visit. Austin's one of them, to see how we put together such a welcoming community. So this is just lends itself statewide, a little more exposure to us and what we're doing, and as well as international exposure we're getting here in a few weeks from Portugal. So.
Can we add a picture of like the decaying wastewater treatment plant to like one of them, just casually as they're thinking about bonding bills?
The donation box, donation box.
Capital and
Yeah.
right. Bonding bill is, yeah.
Good idea.
Part of our welcoming community, subtly.
That could
We
be the
do need
last
that to be
picture.
welcoming too, yes, we
Yes.
do.
Yes.
One of the important parts.
Right. Council, motion to approve or
So
deny?
moved.
Second.
We are approving a $1,000 funding request. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
Thanks for your efforts, folks.
And come
Appreciate
on
it.
up to the opening on March 13th at 4.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Bonnie. Item number 19 is a motion approving the reclassifying of the grant-funded environmental education outreach coordinator position to a grant-funded nature center teacher aide position, effective as of January 1, 2023. Dave?
This is just kind of an addendum to the last time we talked about this. It was an oversight not to include that effective date when we did that. The effective date of January 1st coincides with the inclusion of this position in the bargaining unit. Their contract, and more importantly, it coincides with the billing cycle from the grant itself, so it falls in line with when their billing cycle starts, this grant cycle that this kind of all falls into.
Okay, so the oversight was not asking for the retroactive pay to January 1, right?
Well, that coincides with starting January 1.
Okay. Council, looking for a motion on item number 19.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 Tom?
Motion by Councilmember at Large Austin, second by Councilmember Baker or Baskin to approve the position effective January 1st, 2023. So an aye vote is in favor of such. Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Nay.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Nay.
Baker.
Nay.
Baskin.
Nay.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Motion fails 4-3, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 20 is a resolution approving a gambling premise permit for Austin Youth Hockey. Looking for a resolution. I believe it's, who is it now? Not Windrift, is it Windrift?
Yeah.
Windrift. Looking for a resolution by number 20.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Tom?
Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Baskin.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 21 is granting the Planning and Zoning Department the power to contract for the removal of junk and/or illegally stored vehicles at the following locations: 21A, 510 3rd Avenue Southeast, the Lindahl property.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 21B, address is 1008 13th Avenue Northeast, the Deezer property.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Citizens addressing council, anybody here? I don't see any citizens. Honorary Councilmember George Thomas, he did call earlier, said he will not be making the meeting, so he is absent tonight, but will return next meeting. Reports and recommendations, Craig?
Thank you, Mayor, members. I understand the bonding bill in the Senate. Evidently, the Republican caucus, as you know, the bonding bill requires a supermajority. Evidently, they're interested in tying the tax bill with the bonding bill. I visited with Senator Dornick about that and pressed upon him how important our bonding project is, and we've been delayed several instances, and that we would certainly appreciate and hope that wasn't the case, that we could advance the bonding bill as soon as possible. So if members are interested, please join me in urging him to see the light in that regard. I know there's a lot of discussion about single subject bills, so that would seem to violate their own push in that regard. So other than that, Stephen and I believe maybe Chief McKeegan want to talk about the snow emergency.
Yeah, just wanted to talk briefly about it. Snow emergency, we put it out today that it will be going into effect at midnight tonight. So our snow emergency will be in effect likely for about 72 hours or 3 days. The first day will be Wednesday, February 22nd. In the downtown areas during a snow emergency, there is no parking from 1 a.m. until 8 a.m. That allows us time to do cleanup in the downtown area. And then in residential areas, property owners, homeowners, visitors are required to park with the calendar. And what that means is when it is an even day on the calendar, you park on the even side. So Wednesday being the first day is February 22nd. Vehicles should park on the even side of the road. That would be even numbered houses park on the even numbered house side of the road.
So for example, my address is 1009. I'm an odd number. My whole side of the street is an odd number, right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Our snow crews are planning to begin snow removal around 4 a.m. Tomorrow morning. They'll be working as we normally do on our mains and secondaries, trying to get those done before about the 8 o'clock hour. Then they will move into residential areas. We will be plowing the odd side of the street tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we will be likely doing that same schedule, starting at 4 a.m. We believe that it's likely on Wednesday and Thursday going to take our 10 plow crews about 15 hours to get through this large of an event. So they'll be working from 4 a.m. till probably around 5 p.m. each of those days, Wednesday and Thursday. On Thursday morning, we'll also have a second crew in cleaning up the downtown area. That would be the crew that you see windrowing the snow together in the center of the road, blowing it into trucks and hauling it down and disposing of it at off-site locations. That's day 2. On day 3, again, our plow crews will likely be in at 4 a.m. clearing all of the roads again. We're hoping that Friday is our final day of doing that. On Friday, that is an even day, so cars will be back parked on the even side of the road, and we'll be plowing the odd side. We plow the center and the legal side when we do that. We'll likely also be doing a second downtown cleanup to make sure that we're getting any of that snow that comes in Thursday throughout the day and into Friday evening. So that is our plan for now, how we're going to tackle this, and we will adjust accordingly as the conditions change, but that's our plan at this time.
Stephen, when you say 10 plow crews, how many trucks is that? How many
10.
plows? That is 10, okay.
We have 10 snow plows, we have an alley truck, and we have 4 loaders that generally go out together to clean areas of town.
Thank you. And Chief McKeegan had something more to add?
No, only that again, when these happen, we've asked staff tonight to try to ticket the downtown area. We've tried to get the message out as many platforms as possible. We certainly don't want to ticket, and we absolutely do not want to tow. It takes a lot of our staff time, and the best way not to do that is to have people legally park, and then we don't have to get into that. But tonight we will ticket. When things really ramp up and Stephen's crews are out, we work with them. They identify a need, and if the need is to ticket and tow a car that is in violation of the ordinance in order for them to clear the street, that is when we will invoke towing.
Very good. Thanks, folks. On to council. Laura, do you have anything?
I do. I was happy to participate in an Impact Austin session earlier this month to talk about ways to make quality of life in our city better. I want to continue to encourage that effort. The Culture and Arts Commission, I already mentioned, we used some funding for our Austin, Our America. We're also conducting a public survey so that our work can be focused on the needs of the community in terms of arts and culture as we are planning for this year and next year. And then our Fourth Avenue Fest in June is fully funded. We're happy to have some grant funding from a couple different sources along with our budget allocation to make that happen. Also, just in the course of regular life in the community, I have heard compliments to city staff. It's not unusual, but this week I'm going to say I heard specific compliments to Stephen Lang and Julie Kleinfelter. Great job, folks. And then finally, I want to personally apologize to Bob Bailey, who is the person who keeps this building, City Hall, extremely clean, because I know I tracked a lot of snow in today, and I looked at those floors and said, that's a shame. So, sorry, Bob. Thank you for what you do.
That's great. He'll get that message. I know he will. Mike?
Nothing.
Jeff?
Really want to extend a heartfelt congratulations to all the city leaders for really good fiscal and calendar 2022 performance against budget, both on the revenue and on the expense side. A special shout out to the police department and the public works department for really doing a nice job of spending the taxpayers' money well. I know that's often a challenge, and it did not go unnoticed, so I appreciate that.
Great comments, Jeff. Thank you. Jeff?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Jason?
Two quick things. One is, had an opportunity to meet at the state capitol last week with both of our legislators, and would echo what Craig is saying is, I think both of them are obviously supportive of the bonding project. Both understand the importance to Austin. At the same time, there is a lot of pressure, especially on the Senate side, being put on because there's just not a lot of chips for a minority party. And so the more we can continually reinforce the importance of the project, I think that just helps to offset the constant pressure that happens from leadership in St. Paul, but both obviously very supportive of it and make sure that we've got their backs on that. And then lastly, congratulations to the Austin Packer dance team on their qualification and being a finalist in the state dance tournament. And good luck to all the winter sports teams locally as they start sections and state participation here over the next couple weeks.
Thanks, Jason. Paul?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Joyce?
Nothing, thank you.
The only thing I have to add is right after our last council meeting, the day after, we had that an Accelerate Austin event with Velocity. Daniel Hines came to town, and it was very impactful to see the energy that he brings, but the energy in that room was pretty amazing too, and we're going to keep to continue that project and see what we can develop out of it. So it was great to have that community support and those folks show up, and that's all I have. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn to Monday, March 6th, 2023 in council chambers.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And no work session tonight because of the weather, so.